الله. اللهم اجعل تجمعنا هذا تجمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل منا شقيا ولا محروما. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا يا ارحم الراحمين. Sister Nada, I just sent her the file for this PDF that we're going to be going through today. So in a moment, if you are on Google Class, you should be able to get a copy of that file so that you can follow. All right, so you should get it momentarily, inshallah. So today, if you remember, we said last time, we're going to change the format. Actually, I should have needed the microphone, that would be better. So today is going to be more interactive. It's going to be a little bit inefficient, more difficult for me in order to engage back and forth. But we'll give it a shot, inshallah. So what we're trying to do is to see if we have, the capacity to start looking at hadith and understanding hadith and try to extract from it the main ideas, so that whatever we heard in the beginning of this session, it just gave us some kind of momentum, gave us some kind of capacity. It's still a controlled environment, so there's no need for anyone to be afraid or hesitant. It's an attempt to just move forward. You're not doing Friday football, or you're not doing a major lecture, which is a small group over here. We know each other. It's been a while now. So let's try and do this together. So we try to go as far as we can with our hadith today, inshallah. And all right. So if you remember, this is our book that we are reading from. It's obviously what we're going through are the 40 hadith Nawawi. So they are the 40 hadith that were collected by Imam Nawawi. We all know that they are actually 42, but they call them 40 just because it's an easier title for the book. And the book that I was reading from and sharing from you extracts from it and cherry picking is the commentary by this author. I spoke about him in the beginning, so if you want to go back to the first lecture, I had a little bit more information about him. One of the main things is that he is one of the teachers of Sheikh Yasir al-Qadi, I think, and he's one of those people who actually, ignited the thirst for knowledge for Sheikh Yasir, and Sheikh Jamal is a revert. So as you can see, it doesn't matter who you are. Once someone acquires knowledge and inshallah is sincere in it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use him in order to expand and to propagate knowledge, inshallah. So I kept in this PDF, just for reference, the table of contents, which we really don't need it, and it's 19 pages. So as you can see, this PDF is 30 pages. Does it show here? Yeah, 30 pages. On the corner here, it was showing 30 pages. You don't need the first 19, it's just okay, that's why. It's only table of contents. So we're just going to jump forward. Let's see, go here to page 18. What do we see? So this is the end of the table of content. And then we go to the next hadith. There we go. All right. Did you get the file from Sister Nada yet? If anyone is on Google Class, did you get it? Okay, I see it had its number over here. Can you make this a little bigger? Okay. Someone would like to read the Arabic? Who would like to read the Arabic?
What page? 30?
It's on it's page 20 on the PDF. Jana, can you please see if Nada is still there? And ask her if we can get the microphone working. Actually, we can just use the microphone. Just ask her.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن أبي العباس سهل بن سعد السعيدي رضي الله عنه قال: جاء رجل إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال: يا رسول الله، دلني على عمل إذا عملته أحبني الله وأحبني الناس. فقال: ازهد في الدنيا يحبك الله، وازهد فيما عند الناس يحبك الناس.
Those two are introductory here. Okay, great. You can turn it off now. Okay. We will not stop too much on the Arabic version because the majority of us are not very familiar with Arabic text, and this is an English class. But it's important that we familiarize ourselves with the Arabic terms passively, but we'll spend more time on the English side. So this hadith was رواه ابن ماجه وغيره بأسانيد حسنة. Okay, so I'm not going to do the translation because the PDF is going to do the translation for me. I suppose in the back you can easily see this. All right, I'm going to borrow the microphone from you. I need someone who's brave to read the English version. And if nobody's going to read it, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to give somebody the microphone and ask him or her. Okay, click it.
I hate public speaking, but here we go.
Yeah, you took it from me, I know.
Okay.
Slowly.
On the authority of Abu al-Abbas, Sahil ibn Sa'ad al-Sa'idi, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, a man came to the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and said, O Messenger of Allah, direct me to a deed concerning Hajj. If I perform it, Allah will love me, and the people will love me. It keeps getting cut off. Okay, and the people will love me. He said, be aloof from the world. And
are you familiar with the word aloof? Like, is that a common word that...
yeah, no, not very common, but...
Most of you know what it means. To be honest, I only knew what it means by extrapolation from the Arabic text.
Yeah, from my understanding, it means to be detached.
Okay.
Be aloof from the world, and Allah will love you. Be aloof from what the people possess, and the people will love you. Recorded by Ibn Majah and others with Hasan chains.
Great. So, what was the term that in the Arabic page was used for aloof? Zuhd. Okay, the word zuhd. And how many times the word zuhd, yazhad, zahid is in the Quran? Is it a lot? Like, do you remember as you are going through the Quran? Is it like taqwa? Like, taqwa is almost in every page. So when you go to something like zuhud, is that something that you run across all the time? Is it? No. Actually, in the Quran, there's probably only one time where the word, it's not even zuhud, it's something like a derivative from zuhud that's mentioned in the Quran about the story of Sayyidina Yusuf. And they sold him for a cheap price. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. So they didn't really give him a lot of value, and they took a few coins for him, and they just sold him as if they didn't really value what he was worth. So this zuhud is not a Quranic term. This concept of zuhud and being detached from the world in a certain way that's defined later on through Sufism, is something that developed along the way, but it was not something that was known in that fashion at the time of the Sahaba or the generation after them, the Tabi'een, or the generation after them. So we should right away always have our sensitivity meter when we are reading the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. As much as we are receptive to what we are reading, but at the same time, your critical mind should not be dormant. So when you read hadith like this and you suddenly find this word, zuhud, that's not in the Quran, can you find it in other ahadith? I don't know. I didn't really do a search. Then you should say, you know what? I will give it the benefit. I will give this hadith the benefit of the doubt. But just the fact that this is a kind of foreign word from the Quran, I want to put it under a little bit more scrutiny before I actually go with it and adopt it with my eyes closed, right? So this, what I'm mentioning in here, is a systematic character that should be in your personality as you are reading not only hadith, if you're reading anything in history, reading any fiqh matter, don't take anything totally for granted. Yes, the default is it's correct, it's true, but this does not mean that you don't have the capacity to have a critical mind within the limits that you would have to realize what they are. Okay, so obviously when we are reading the Quran, there's no chance in reading the Quran and saying, well, this word is wrong or not wrong. No, well, the meaning of what people probably say about some of the verses of the Quran might not be accurate, but it does not change the wording of the ayah and the verse itself. So always allow yourself to be a little bit more critical, and will allow you to go and research more, and that's where you start gathering more and more of your knowledge, and you start to to be capable of finding harmony and synchrony between things that you thought that they were conflicting. So on that concept, so what is zuhud in the end? Can somebody summarize the whole concept in a sentence, for example? What is zuhud? I can't hear you, so I think everybody else can hear you. All right, thanks for doing
Can you hear me? I think zuhd is like a form of humility where one kind of lets go of the dunya and has very little of the possessions of dunya, from what I understand. Like a lot of the Khulafa Rashidin were known for their zuhd because they didn't have much despite their positions.
Okay, so let's look at the Khulafa al-Rashidin as you have mentioned. Were they all destitute and poor? They had little material possessions, or they were not attached to it? They had some and not attached. Let's take them one by one. Who is the most, let's say, financially capable of the four Khulafa al-Rashidin? Sayyidina Osman, right? Sayyidina Osman, on his own, he gave the whole, and this need for the whole army that was going to one of the Ghazawat on his own. جهز جيش العسرة on his own, Sayyidina Osman. So did he hesitate? Not a bit. He just did it like this when he felt that there's need in that. So let's advance your thoughts on more. Can you rephrase it a little bit? When we say that Khulafa al-Rashidin,
So it's not giving much importance to material possessions as much as.
So does this mean that they didn't have it?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, they did, right?
Yes.
I'll give you an example. It's been said that the Prophet ﷺ one time he needed some donations from the Muslim community for a group of destitute people. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged people to give from what they have. Sayyidina Umar came and he brought half of everything he owned, and he gave it to the Prophet ﷺ, put it in front of the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, Sayyidina Umar said, O Prophet of Allah, this is half of what I own, and I will have wali inda Allahi mi'ad. So it means I'm giving half and I'm taking note of that. It's tough, but I still do it. And I want a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this half, which is understandable. But soon after that, Sayyidina Abu Bakr came. What does Sayyidina Abu Bakr bring? Everything. He brought everything. And then he said, "O Prophet of Allah, this is everything and I own, and walillah indi mi'ad," which means if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me more, I will give him more. Like whatever I have, I will give him more, and I'm not doing it for anything, just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As if Sayyidina Umar was trading, okay, I'm going to give dunya, but I'm expecting akhirah. Of course, he is expecting akhirah, but he has in his heart. Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he's just giving because this is the right thing to do. And this concept of not being attached, this is the main idea in here. And I think it's simple, but it goes to a second layer where it becomes almost a social hadith, that if you want to be someone who's accepted by society, then you just be zahid from what people own. Don't look to what people own, and don't envy them, and don't hope that you want to be like that. And when people see that you are not a threat to them, or you're not competing with them, they cannot like you. But in the end, nobody is doing this so that people just love them. This is not a target on its own. But if you are a zahid, then automatically people are going to love you. This is how it works. There's a word that's in English, they're using it for zuhd, which I find it's not also very familiar. I don't know if people use it here as well. Ascetic, is that a word? Ascetic, which means zahid, and zuhd is asceticism. That's like a mouthful word, but anyway, it is a word that's being used. So, who narrated this hadith? Ibn Majah. What did we say about Ibn Majah passively? We didn't stop a lot about hadith sciences, but we said that the main books of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'at are main, but there's 6 that are mentioned most commonly. Obviously, Bukhari and Muslim are 2 of them. Who are the remaining 4? Too much time. Please, take turns when you speak. Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, 2. No, this is because beyond them. It's not part of 6. Ibn Majah, and there's one that's not very familiar, but it is, you must have heard it many times. Nasa'i. Nasa'i, some people by mistake they say Nisa'i, which means that if he's like a woman, or from a word, or his name is derived from a woman, Nisa. No, it's Nasa is the name of a city or a village. Okay. So Ibn Majah, when you classify those 6 books, Ibn Majah is the one with the lower quality than the remaining 5. It's not like it's a book of fabricated hadith, la samahallah. No, that's not the case. It's just because it is the one that has the least amount of unique hadith, the most amount of weak hadith, and the rest have an advantage over it. So let's see what the author wrote further. Look. So after a couple of pages about hadith sciences, the author said, the conclusion is that the strongest chain for this hadith is that of Abu Nu'aym, where in that chain it is broken between Mujahid and the Prophet ﷺ. Mujahid is one of the students of the Sahaba. So Mujahid never saw the Prophet ﷺ. He's not a generation of Sahaba, he's a generation after the Sahaba. So Mujahid and the Prophet ﷺ did not obviously meet, but Mujahid narrated the hadith. He said, the Prophet ﷺ said, Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, and then he narrated this hadith. Okay, where is the link between you and the Prophet ﷺ? Absent. It does not exist. It's not in the isnad of the hadith. So the chain is broken between Mujahid and the Prophet ﷺ. Hence, it must be considered a weak hadith. Okay, see, if you had your radar sensitive from the beginning when the word zuhd came, and then you went and dug deeper to see in the Asani, then you're going to be supported by the scientific work behind it is that actually this hadith is not authentic. It falls below the line. Its meaning is still correct. It's not a fabricated hadith. Fabricated hadith are hadith that are lied. Somebody made them up. This hadith has been narrated, has an isnad. For all we know, this missing link between the two could have been an authentic, a reliable narrator, but we don't know who he is, who that link is. So we have to decide based on what we have. We're going to say it's a weak hadith, but unassumed it was an authentic hadith, an authentic, a reliable narrator, then this hadith would become. However, a fabricated hadith, no matter how you spin it, it will never become a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So not the hadith, if it's weak, it does not mean that it is useless. No, it still has value. Imam Nawawi, he said this hadith is Hasan, but probably scholarly work after him is a little bit more stringent, and they decided that it's weak hadith. All right, we move to the next one. We're good. By the way, do you know الدعاء اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا? Who can continue the second part of the hadith? وأنت اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا. Oh Allah, there's nothing easy, only the thing that you made easy. وأنت, and you, إذا شئت, if you wish, جعلت الحزن سهلا. What does that mean? What does that mean? And if you wish, you would have changed the hazan into sahal. What does that mean? We're still linguistically, we're not trying to extract a second layer of meaning. We're still saying linguistically, what does hazna mean? Huh? Sadness? Sadness is hazan. Laysa hazan. What's hazan? Hazan is a mountain, a rugged earth, where it's difficult to go through. So the dua, وَأَنْتَ تَجْعَلُ الْحَزْنَ إِذَا شِئْتَ سَهْلًا. You make difficult travel easy. This is a part of dua as-safar. Why am I mentioning this? Because this guy, Sahel ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, his name was Hazan. And when he came to the Prophet ﷺ, he asked, what's your name? He said, Mish Sahel ibn Sa'd. He said, Hazan ibn Sa'd. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, no, you're not Hazan. You're not a difficulty, and I make you Sahel. So he changed his name to Sahel. All right? So make sure there's a difference between Hazan, which means sadness, and Hazan, which means with sukoon, Hazan, which means it's like a rugged terrain. And by the way, this Sahel, the Sahabi, he was about 15 or 16 years old when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. And he lived almost 100 years. And he was one of the very last Sahabis who died. And he used to say that probably when I pass away, there's no longer anyone who's going to say Qala sallallahu alayhi wa sallam or Sami'tu Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say. When I pass away, probably there won't be anyone who's going to say I heard the Prophet, because he was a very last Sahabi in Medina. But didn't we say Sayyidina Anas also lived that long? Why is he saying, how come? How do we, square this apparently two conflicting historic? We're saying Sayyidina Anas is one of the last ones, and now we have Sahel, who's one of the last ones. And, just not to spend too much time on this, Sahel said, I'm the last one in Medina. Where was Sayyidina Anas? Sayyidina Anas was not in Medina, he was in Basra, in Iraq. And his masjid is over there, is where he was buried. All right.
Moving on.
Microphone. Okay, would you like to read this Arabic?
عن أبي سعيد سعد بن مالك بن سنان الخدري رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لا ضرر ولا ضرار حديث. أو لا ضرر
Here's the beginning and the
Oh,
end of
my-
the hadith. It's one, two, three, 4 words. That's the
Okay.
whole hadith, and everything else is just like ornamentation. The hadith is لا ضرر ولا ضرار.
لا ضرر ولا ضرار.
And then Imam Nawawi said,
حديث حسن رواه ابن ماجه ودار قطني وغيرهما مسندا، ورواه مالك في الموطأ مرسلا عن عمرو بن يحيى عن أبيه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أسقط أبا سعيد وله طرق يقوي بعضها بعضا.
Let's go to the English.